Welcome to our weekly meditation, and looping back a bit to thoughts on transformation, but linking that with the idea of transforming our loss, our grief, our pain. Picking up words of Richard Rohr again. Remember, if we do not transform our pain and ego anger, we will always transmit it in another form. And again he says, the universal spiritual pattern is death and resurrection, or if you like, loss and renewal. But often we want one without the other. Transformation without thinking about the element of loss or cost or surrender. So now we come into our ritual practice of preparing for meditation, coming intentionally into this space and bringing a focus on where we are right now, noticing where we're sitting, maybe just adjusting our position to feel comfortable and to feel connected. Upright if we can, but certainly alert and aware. Placing our hands where they're comfortable and closing our eyes or lowering our gaze or using the image on the screen as we take our usual starting 2 deep breaths in through the nose and back out through the mouth. Deliberately and consciously taking deeper, slower breaths than we would normally. Most savouring the experience of breathing slowly and deeply. And however long you're able to sustain that in-breath and that out-breath, count for 2, hold for 2 at the end of the in-breath and at the end of the out-breath. And now notice what sensations you have associated with that breathing. Whether it's the movement of the air, the sound of the breath, the movements of your own body with the rise and fall of the stomach. And then turn your attention even more inwards to noticing what else is going on in the body. And by the body I include the mind as well. What are you feeling? What are you thinking? What can you notice internally? It just might be an overall sense of calm, or conversely a sense of anxiety. Nothing specific, just an overall feeling. But just notice, acknowledge, no judgment. And in this time of preparation, if you notice that you become aware that your thoughts are going off, and that there's a train of thought, just gently, in noticing that, allow it to be stopped and bring the attention back to noticing what's going on, or to just focus again on the breath. And as you continue in that calm state, just going to repeat one or two sentences that we've used before where the idea of transformation comes in. Perhaps starting with the sort of a wide lens on this, of almost a theory, but locating it with the divine. Rowan Williams: God is first and foremost the depth around all things and beyond all things, into which, when I pray, I try to sink. But God is also the activity that comes to me out of that depth, tells me I'm loved, opens up a future for me that offers transformations I can't imagine. And St. John of the Cross, going back a few centuries, mysticism is about the holy transformation of the mystic by God, so that the mystic becomes instrumental in the holy transformation of God's people. And then back to Richard Rohr: as we enter the path of transformation, the most valuable thing we have working in our favour is our yearning. Some will even say that the yearning you feel for God is actually coming from the opposite direction. It is in fact God's yearning for you. And now putting a bit of detail on that, Again, some words we've used before around the process, the stages. Jeremiah's prophecies, all hopes for the future of the Jewish people, lie in those who endured a three-stage process of transformation. First, those who entered into exile. Second, those who retained hope and did not turn bitter during that time. And third, those who returned from exile with hope and with praise in their hearts instead of self-pity. This transformation of pain and anger is the supreme work of all true spirituality and spiritual communities. Those offer us a place where our sadness and rage can be refined into human sympathy and active compassion. On that, Brian McLaren says, "May your anger lead you to sadness, and may your sadness lead you to love, so that you meet the tears of things with a heart of bottomless compassion." Psychotherapist, colleague of Richard Rohr, says the crux is a shift from judgment, competition and aggression to the rule of an open heart. The Gospels represent a movement out of narcissism and paranoia to a more mature, self-possessed life of deep community. And pausing then for a moment to contemplate, how do we practice this? How do we deal effectively with those urges, those passions that we've talked of before in ourselves and in society? Aggression, paranoia, greed, jealousy, violence. Living with a mindset that doesn't justify such things, but seeks alternatives. I heard a first-hand account today of a church that is trying to be inclusive and welcome to all, regardless of sexuality or gender, where some older members are opposed to welcoming or inviting into membership people in same-sex relationship. But yesterday, an old guy was fainting or feeling ill, and a woman from a same-sex couple drove him and his wife home. And today, the old woman phoned somebody and said, "I was against same-sex relationships." That woman's testimony, she knows Christ, she knows Jesus, she has a relationship. I realised that that's the most important thing, and her sexuality doesn't really matter. So there's someone whose mindset has changed because of the way the young woman presents herself, her witness, her living witness. on our own transformation, or how we help ourselves, how we help others, transforming loss, grief, pain, anger. A couple of summary thoughts. It will take time. Recruiting trusted friends to help us. Journaling our thoughts and our experiences. Refusing to be defined too simplistically, such as, I am an anxious person, there's nothing I can do about it, or I am a widower, or this is just the way I am. We need to accept that healing and transformation is a process and there are stages to it, but that we can celebrate our progress. And rituals, prayer and quiet can help. But we need to be on our guard, because if rituals and practices just turn into repetitive obligations, they lose their power. So that instead of inviting people into a new consciousness, simple repetitive practices can often trap people in a simplistic understanding of those rituals, and transaction ends up substituting for transformation. And so we'll move to our longer silence with music from Taizé. So we use the silence as works best for us, as a time to focus simply on our breathing, or to notice our thinking, become the observer of our thoughts, or to contemplate on that idea of transformation. I am sure I shall see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Yes, I shall see the goodness of our God. Hold firm, trust in the Lord. Those reassuring words bringing us out of silence. Looking for the goodness of the Lord all around us. And so we open our eyes gently if they've been closed. Reconnect with our surroundings. And a closing word of prayer taken from a well-known hymn. O joy that seekest me through pain, I cannot close my heart to thee. I trace the rainbow through the rain, and feel the promise is not vain, that morn shall tearless be.